Dynasty Warriors Origins is a retelling of the romance of the Three Kingdoms, revisiting the political intrigue, alliance, and the betrayals of the Han Dynasty's collapse. However, the twist comes in the form of a brand new protagonist, the Guardian of Peace. And this subtle character is a mythical warrior burned with amnesia. A trope we've all seen before, of course, but it's one that works great here as it helps to ground the story's branching paths. And the Guardian serves as a neutral party, allowing you to explore the narrative of the key figures like Liu Bei, Cao Cao, and the Song Clan without being tied to one perspective. And this game structure spans 5 chapters, some which are incredibly lengthy, with multiple endings based on your choices and alliances. And while the choices primarily affect dialogue, the slight narrative shifts and gives you the player a sense of agency in shaping the fate of the Three Kingdoms. And the open world itself is compact yet effective, serving as a living map of ancient China. You can sprint across it entirely in less than a minute, but it never feels small, all thanks to the strategic design. In each area, from the serene villages to the war-torn battlefields, reflect the tumultuous eras beautifully. But moving on to the start of the show, the Musu combat. True to its roots, Dynasty Warrior Origins pits you, the player, against impossible odds, hundreds, even thousands of enemies at once. But it's the refinements to the combat that elevate the experience. The combat in the game starts simple, but evolves rapidly. You can master up to 9 weapons, each one with distinct combos, movesets, and upgrade paths. And unlocking battle arts, a special ability fueled by the bravery system, adds new layers of strategy and spectacle. Bravery itself rewards aggressive play and encourages you to dive headfirst into the chaos. And the battles are no longer about mindless button mashing. One-on-one duels with enemy lieutenants and generals require precise timing, as parrying and dodging play a central role in surviving these tougher encounters. And its group mechanics also shine, and allow you to command allies to execute devastating attacks like rock bombardment and arrow volleys. And this game is a completionist dream, with constant carrot-on-stick chases, from leveling up your guardian and horse, to collecting talismans and mastering new weapon types. And this game offers countless incentives to keep grinding, and it rarely feels like a chore. And the open world provides a balance of main quests, structured side missions, and dynamic random encounters. And graphically, this game steps up from its predecessors. The character models are richly detailed, with intricate outfits and smooth animations. However, its environmental textures could be a hit or miss. While certain areas look stunning, others do feel oddly outdated. But something that's just perfect for me is its audio design. The soundtrack in this game alternates between orchestral grandeur and adrenaline pumping rock. And when it comes to the voice acting, it is delivered commendable. If anything, at times this game can feel a bit repetitive, but if you've played the Dynasty Warrior games, you already knew that before watching this review. This game's an 8.3 out of 10. It's a love letter to the fans of the franchise and a solid entry point to newcomers. So whether or not you're a fan of Dynasty Warriors, this is a game I can easily recommend to you. The game expertly blends ancient weaponry with cybernetic enhancements in an unpredictable and exciting world. And the real heart of this game is its combat, and it doesn't disappoint. As from the moment you take control of Ryu, you'll notice the demanding yet satisfying combat mechanics, as every slash, combo, and counterattack is built on the precision and timing that made the original so memorable. And the mechanics themselves are simple on paper, lighting heavy attacks, projectiles, blocking, dodging, and using magic abilities. But in practice, this game demands an extraordinary level of mastery. And for me, one of the highlights of this remaster is the ability to chain together devastating combos, linking attacks into fluid, stylish animation. This game rewards experimentation, and as you grow more comfortable with Ryu's arsenal, you'll learn the nuances of how each weapon and ability work in harmony. So whether you're using the agile dragon sword or the deadly lunar staff, or even Ryu's powerful magic spells, every choice in combat feels impactful. And the battles themselves are fast-paced and unforgiving, as they are designed for players who thrive under pressure. Ryu's agility makes him a joy to control, but his fragility ensures that mistakes are costly. And the challenge is for me what makes the game so thrilling, as it never gives you a moment of rest. From one-on-one encounters with ninjas to massive battles against gigantic monsters, every fight feels unique. And its AI is smart, as it constantly forces you to rethink strategies on the fly. Not everything about the combat has aged gracefully, and the most notable flaw is the absence of a lock-on system. In a game where enemies come at you from all angles, this becomes a frustrating limitation, especially when fighting multiple foes at once. While it may not have been an issue back in 2008, modern action games have largely moved past this design choice, and as a result, locking onto specific enemies during chaotic battles feels more cumbersome than it should be. And when it comes to its visuals, this game's a showstopper, as its remaster takes full advantage of Unreal 5's capabilities, elevating the original game's already impressive design to new heights. Its textures, character models, and environments have been completely overhauled, offering an incredibly smooth and detailed visual experience. And its audio does not disappoint. This game features a carefully crafted soundtrack that blends traditional Japanese instrumentation with modern electronic beats, which perfectly complements the world and tone. The music is atmospheric and high energy, and it perfectly captures the intensity of the combat and the mysterious world in which Ryu exists. For me, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is an unforgettable action experience, and this remaster solidifies it as one of the best in its class. For me, the game's a 9.5 out of 10, and whether you're a longtime fan revisiting the series or a newcomer eager to experience this game, it's a game I can easily recommend to you. It's absolutely great, and at the moment, it's my #1 game of 2005. For me, one of the most captivating elements of Freedom Wars Remastered is its dystopian narrative, as it's set in the future where humanity is forced to live in a massive, fortress-like cities called Panopticons. And this title immediately plunges you into the world of oppression and scarcity, and its core premise revolves around a class system, where sinners, you, the protagonist, are given an absurdly long 1 million year sentence for simply existing, and the citizens, the upper class, they live with privileges, while the sinners, they're treated as expendable tools set on dangerous missions to protect the Panopticon. And as a sinner, your goal here is to complete operations, battle monstrous enemies called abductors, and gather resources to reduce your sentence. And every mission you complete earns you a chance to spend a little more time outside your sterile prison cell, and eventually unlock new privileges and customizations along the way. It's a hauntingly clever take on the freedom and power with the constant tension between personal ambition and societal control. And its English dub is a notable addition in this remaster, making the story more accessible than ever. And while it does lean heavily into the anime tropes, the voice acting is surprisingly engaging, and even some of the more epic scenes are brought to life in new light. That said, the overall tone still holds strong, even though the dialogue and the character interactions can sometimes feel awkward, especially with the text-to-speech feature used for the accessory AI characters. And for me, where this game truly excels is in its setting and the world building, as Panopticon feels alive with its own inner politics and secret. The fact that you start as a lowly sinner, with each action and decision contributing to your personal freedom, creates a sense of progression that is rewarding, yet always staying with the knowledge that you're in a system that views you as little more than a tool. But now, moving on to the best thing, its gameplay mechanics. At its heart, this game follows the hunting formula where you take on a large, dangerous creature known as abductors, and an intense third-person action combat. And the game's core involves you using an arsenal weapon ranging from the melee weapons to the long-range guns, alongside the game's unique grappling hook tool, the Thorn. And for me, the Thorn is the standard mechanic here, as it's not just used for traversal. In combat, the Thorn allows you to grapple onto enemies, dragging them into the ground, severing their limbs, or even hopping onto their heads for strategic attacks. It brings a level of verticality and dynamism to the otherwise flat combat arenas. And as you progress through the game, you unlock different versions of the Thorn, adding more abilities such as healing and shield. And when you're not fighting the abductors, well, you're working with the Panopticon, managing your rights and privileges. And these rights govern your basic actions, like how far you can roam from your accessory or how long you can run before your stamina runs out. Initially, the restrictions are strict, and every action comes with penalties, adding layers of tension and frustration. However, as you progress, you'll reduce your sentence and more freedom unlocks, gradually changing the way you interact with the world. And its crafting system is another significant aspect. As you complete missions, you'll gather materials and resources, which can then be used to upgrade your weapons, gear, or even your character's appearance. And the game's mission structure involves a variety of tasks, from rescuing citizens to engaging in real-time objectives like holding points or capturing flags. Missions are challenging, especially as the timer often pushes you to be efficient, and the larger abductors require strategic thinking, such as targeting specific parts of the enemy to weaken them. And visually, this game looks great, and while it isn't a true remaster, its textures and environments still have a bit of that dated feel, but the game's distinct sci-fi aesthetic remains charming. However, I do suggest you play this on the PS5 and not the Nintendo Switch. For me, this game's a 7.3 out of 10, and it's a game I could recommend to you, especially if you're a fan of the original or a fan of hunting games like Monster Hunter or God Eater. Sniper Elite Resistance takes place alongside the events of Sniper Elite 5, giving us a parallel adventure as Harry Hawker embarks on a mission to disrupt Nazi plants and eliminate a dangerous superweapon ahead of D-Day. The story is functional, but honestly, it feels a little by the numbers. You've got the usual World War II tropes, stealth infiltrations, sabotage, and high-stakes missions. There are some attempts to build emotional weight around Harry and his allies, but these moments feel shallow mainly due to the lack of character development. Harry himself is an interesting protagonist. He's got some quippy one-liners and a nonsense attitude, but for the most part, he's a bit of a caricature. I get what the developers were trying to do, but the character comes off as forced at times, and his attempts to deliver one-liners often feel more like a bad Jason Statham impression. It's hard to get invested in the plot when the pacing of the story is inconsistent and the characters don't add much depth. The setting, though visually stunning in parts, also feels familiar. As the World War II narrative has been done to death in countless games, I can't help but feel that the genre has lost some of its appeal. Sure, Resistance gives us new missions and areas to explore, but the overall historical context is starting to feel stale. It's a setting that feels like it's seen better days, and I'm just left wondering if Sniper Elite could benefit from a change of scenery or even a different historical period. This game doesn't stray far from the series' tried and true formula. The core of the gameplay revolves around stealth, sniping, and the creative problem solving, which is exactly what we've come to expect from Sniper Elite. And as you step into Harry's shoes, you're tasked with taking out Nazi targets, sabotaging enemy operation, and of course doing all this with the sniper rifle in hand. The gameplay allows for multiple playstyles, so whether you prefer the silent, stealthy approach or the all-out guns blazing strategy, you've got options. The signature X-ray kill cameras are back, showing some gruesome slow motion effects of your shots as they tear through your enemies. However, the gameplay isn't just about sniping, as the game encourages creative play and allows you to use distractions, set up traps, and utilize ranged weapons to tackle each mission different, and utilize a range of weapons to tackle each mission, and you'll find yourself scouring the maps for useful items like crowbars, bolt cutters, and keys, which help you unlock safe, crates, and secure areas. And the level design is solid, as it offers a series of large interconnected maps with multiple objectives to complete. And these maps are pretty open-ended and give you room to plan your approach and tackle objectives in the order you choose. That said, the objectives themselves can feel repetitive, but what helps to keep things fresh are the kill list targets, which offer optional challenges for taking out specific enemies in unique ways, and the rewards for these challenges add a nice layer of depth and replayability. And visually, this game looks good, but it's not without its flaws. There's a lot of detail in the lighting, architecture, and the destructible environments, but the character models can be a hit or miss, as some of them feel stiff and robotic, but its sound design is where this game truly shines. The crash of the footsteps, the roar of the planes overhead, and the distant sound of explosions, everything comes together to create a tense atmosphere that makes you feel every second of your mission. There's a lot to do in this game, and aside from the main mission campaign, you've got multiplayer mode, co-op missions, and the Axis Invasion feature. However, I do feel like the multiplayer and invasion modes are starting to show their age. While they're fun, they don't feel fresh or innovative compared to other shooters out there. For me, Sniper Elite Resistance is a solid entry in the franchise. It sticks to the core formula that the fans love: stealthy sniping, creative mission approaches, and plenty of opportunities to rack up the satisfying X-ray kill cams. But personally, I feel like the game doesn't really push the series forward in any significant way, and that's why it's a 7.5 out of 10 for me, but it's only a game I could recommend to fans of the franchise. And if you're a newcomer, unfortunately, this is not a game I could recommend to you.
Today, I'll be unraveling the mysteries of Disorder, the latest roguelike hack-and-slash adventure brought to life by Grumpy Games. And the first thing that hits you when you fire this game up is its unapologetically striking visual style, as it clearly draws inspiration from the likes of Stellar Blade and Nier Automata. The game boasts its futuristic cyberpunk aesthetic, and the protagonist is undeniably captivating, and the world she inhabits feels sterile yet eerie. But while the game's atmosphere is undeniably compelling, the cutscenes leave much to be desired, and the lack of voice acting paired with the subtitles that disappear faster than you can blink make this a challenging story to follow. And it feels like Grumpy Games wanted to create an immersive narrative experience, unfortunately falls short of execution. And for a game with the nice striking visual, I expected the narrative delivery to carry similar weight, but unfortunately, as it was made by two people, it unfortunately feels rushed and unpolished. Moving on to the story, or at least what little there could be to piece it together. The premise seems to involve the protagonist dealing with a traumatic event at a shopping mall, which plunges her into a virtual roguelike world where death is a constant companion, and each time she dies, she respawns but loses all upgrades, a classic roguelike mechanic. But the problem here is the way the story is presented, with subtitles that vanish before you can fully read them, cutscenes that lack proper pacing, and no voice acting to ground you into the narrative. The story feels like an afterthought, and the developers have unfortunately created a world that visually begs for more context, and they've just left us stranded in sea with unanswered questions. For a game with such a heavy Nier Automata vibe, you'd expect a richer, more engaging story, but sadly, that is not here. Now moving on to what I personally think matters the most, the gameplay. This game follows a classic roguelike formula, but it brings its own twist to the table. The game is broken into stages, with each one representing a different room or an area within the virtual mall. And completing stages earns you temporary upgrades like health boost, increased damage, or flashy new abilities. The combat system in this game is functional, but clunky. You have a light attack, heavy attack, and a kick, as well as special abilities like a dodge roll, a block counter, and flashy moves like zero gravity where your character slams her sword into the ground. But the issue is that there's no real fluidity between the moves. Combos feel non-existent, and the transition between attacks lack the grace and spectacle of its inspirations. And the kick, while cool to look at, essentially acting as a slower light attack that you rarely ever use. But its heavy attack is surprisingly fast, but since most enemies don't really block, there's little incentive to switch up your approach. And the enemies in this game range from mildly entertaining to frustratingly predictable. Mannequins are your basic fodder enemies. They shuffle around with varying walking animations and occasionally flail their arms at you. Brutes are hulking mannequins on steroids. They're slow but hit like a truck, and their attacks are easy to dodge. And the Foul is the star of the game, a grotesque cyber beast with floating eyes and a ring of energy. And while the design is impressive, its attack patterns are painfully repetitive. And while I wanted this game to be good, unfortunately, this game had clunky combat, a disjointed progression, poor storytelling, and long, lifeless cutscenes. And unfortunately for me, this game's a 6 out of 10. It's not completely terrible, but it's hard to recommend to any of you, even to you die-hard roguelike fans.
Donkey Kong Country Returns HD brings the challenging platforming and nostalgic charm of the original Wii and the 3D's classic to the Nintendo Switch, delivering a remaster that feels both familiar and fresh. And for any of you unfamiliar with the Donkey Kong Country series, it's one of Nintendo's most beloved platformers, dating back to the 1990s. Originally developed by Rare, the series became synonymous with challenging gameplay, vibrant visuals, and a certain lovable gorilla with a penchant for bananas. And Donkey Kong Country Returns marks the series' revival back in 2010. And now, 15 years later, we're revisiting this gem in high definition. The story kicks off with Donkey Kong's prized banana horde being stolen by the mischievous Tiki Tak tribe. These floating tiki masks have brainwashed the island's animals to doing their dirty work, and naturally, Donkey Kong, joined by his trusty sidekick Diddy Kong, set out to reclaim his bananas and restore peace to the island. It's a classic Nintendo tale, simple, quirky, and the perfect setup for an intense platforming action. And this title is a masterclass in platforming variety. Across 80 meticulously designed levels, you'll swing through the vines, blast out of barrels, ride mini carts, and even charge through obstacles atop Brambi the Rhino. The gameplay constantly surprises you, introducing fresh mechanics and challenges in nearly every stage. And one of the biggest standouts of this game is its use of depth, as you'll often launch from the foreground to the background, seamlessly transitioning between the layers of levels. And this isn't just a visual gimmick, it's a gameplay mechanic that keeps you engaged and on your toes. However, don't be fooled with this game's colorful and cheery exterior. This game is brutally challenging, requiring precise timing, sharp reflexes, and a whole lot of patience. And levels like Rocket Barrel stages, where one hit means instant death, will test even seasonal gamers. But for those who preserve, the sense of accomplishment is unmatched. But I'm sure you're wondering, what's the difference in this remaster? First and foremost, the visuals have received a much needed facelift. This HD version boasts smoother textures, richer colors, and sharper detail, making every environment pop. But the improvements aren't just skin deep. Modern Mode is a new addition aimed to making the game more accessible to newcomers, as it gives you an extra heart and allows you to carry up to 9 items, and it even provides tools like invisibility potions. And another addition is the motion controls. The Wii version required you to shake the remote for action like ground pounding, a feature that wasn't exactly popular, but in this version, these actions have been replaced with a simple button press, which makes the controls feel tighter and more responsive. Co-op mode also makes a return, and allows one player to take control of Donkey Kong, while the other plays as Diddy Kong. This mode is a blast and allows you to tackle levels together, strategize, and even share the load when the difficulty ramps up. It's a fantastic addition, especially for anyone who has a lot of friends or family members and are looking to enjoy some couch co-op fun. And while this remaster is impressive, there are some flaws, as some of the graphical updates feel a bit underwhelming. For instance, water textures and certain environmental details don't quite take full advantage of the Switch's hardware, and for many players who've already conquered the original, the lack of substantial new content might make this remaster feel like a tough sell. While at first I wanted to skip this game, after finally playing, for me it's an 8 out of 10, and this game does a great job at preserving the charm of the original, all while modernizing it for new audiences. It's a game I can easily recommend to anyone, especially anyone who loves platformers or is looking to play this game for the first time. From the very moment you enter Hyper Light Breaker, you're greeted with the game's breathtaking visuals. Its art direction continues the studio's tradition of combining soft lighting with neon hues to create a visually striking landscape. The world feels massive, and every corner hides some new mystery and challenge. But it's not just the visuals that impress. The game features a hauntingly beautiful soundtrack, and for me, the music is an integral part of the experience that enhances the game's atmosphere with emotional and evocative tracks that rise and fall in the intensity as you explore the world and engage in combat. At its core, the game takes everything that made Hyper Light Drifter a hit and expands upon it. The gameplay still builds around exploration and combat, but this time, it's set in a vast interconnected world that offers more freedom and depth. And the game is now fully realized as a roguelike action RPG with procedurally generated environments, varied biomes, and a host of enemies that challenge you at every turn. The combat is fast, fluid, and deeply satisfying, and there's a sense of weight to every strike. Whether you're wielding a melee weapon or engaging in ranged combat, this game offers a range of weapons, each one having its own set of mechanics and synergies, and it encourages you to experiment with different loadouts. For me, one of the most standout aspects of this game is its combat, and how it blends both range and melee attacks together. You can use your melee weapons to build upon resources for powerful ranged shots, and this interplay between different weapon types makes the combat feel strategic. And in terms of progression, the game leans into the roguelike element, so you'll lose your gear upon death. But unlike many roguelike, this game rewards you for your efforts by allowing you to retain certain upgrades and abilities after each run, and this allows for a sense of continuous progression. And its open world structure also makes this game feel much more expansive than its predecessor. There are secrets to uncover, hidden areas to explore, and plenty of rewards for those who are willing to venture off the beaten path. And whether you're solving environmental puzzles, discovering new biomes, or uncovering lore through environmental storytelling, there's always something to keep you engaged. And one of the major selling points for this title is its multiplayer experience, as the game allows you to team up with friends in cooperative play. And this multiplayer mode enhances the exploration and combat, as working together adds a new layer of strategy on how you approach enemies, bosses, and environmental puzzles. And it feels well integrated into the game's core mechanics. However, the game unfortunately still has some bugs that do detract from the experience. So, is this game worth your time? For me, this game's a 7.8 out of 10, and it's a game I could recommend to you, especially if you're a fan of Hyper Light Drifter. And if you're a fan of RPGs, roguelikes, or simply stunning indie games, this is a game you'll enjoy.
With the script reportedly stretching to over 250,000 words, this game tackles themes of control, resilience, and community with a literary flair reminiscent of classic science fiction. It definitely raises questions about what it means to be human in a world where memory, identity, and freedom are constantly under siege. And the dialogue is as evocative as it is precise, inviting you to pause, reflect, and even question your own perception about society and self. This game adopts a minimalistic yet arresting visual style that mirrors its thematic concerns. And complementing the visuals is the soundtrack by Amos Roddy, a blend of melancholic, futuristic tones that heighten the emotional weight of every moment. And at the heart of Citizen Sleeper 2 lies its game mechanics that set it apart from the traditional RPGs. A refined dice-based system that injects uncertainty and tension into every decision. Each in-game day begins with a roll of predetermined dice that dictate the outcome of nearly every action. And this system forces you to strategize carefully about how you allocate your limited dice resources, adding layers of risk and reward to each choice you make. Adding further depth is its robust stress mechanics. Fail a crucial roll, or let your resources run low, and your character begins to accumulate stress, eventually leading to glitch or even broken dice that can jeopardize your progression. And to counteract these challenges, each playable class comes equipped with unique abilities, including a push mechanic that lets you temporarily boost outcomes at the expense of increased stress. These mechanics demand that you balance caution with daring, ensuring that every decision feels weighty and consequential. And the game expands beyond the text and dice roll by offering an increased sense of freedom. And your ship becomes both a mobile home base and a symbol of journey, and allows you to travel between futuristic interstellar locations, and the optional contracts and side missions you encounter not only enrich the narrative, but they also require you to assemble a diverse crew, each one having their own skills and vulnerabilities. And while the sheer volume of text and occasional repetitiveness may be daunting, for me it's precisely this immersive complexity that makes this game a rewarding experience. For me, this game's an 8 out of 10, and it's a triumph of narrative ambition and innovative gameplay design. It honors the legacy of its predecessor while boldly expanding on its universe, both in story and in skill. And sure, its slower pace and heavy reliance on text might not suit everyone. For fans of immersive sci-fi and those who appreciate a game that challenges you to consider every risk and reward, this title is a must-play, and a game I can easily recommend to you.
And Bryn's journey through the world starts with her joining a group of fellow weavers, each one with their own backstory. The writing at times feels a bit too modern for a fantastic setting, with characters that often engage in conversations that feel out of place in a world defined by magic and conflict, and the modern psychology dialogue feels jarring against the otherwise fantastical backdrop. But despite these drawbacks, the world itself offers a solid foundation for exploration. And as Bryn, you'll journey deeper into the Enclave, where mystery gradually unfolds, and some of the characters begin to show more depth, but the game's narrative never quite hits the level of emotional renaissance we'd expect from such a rich setting. Now, diving into the gameplay itself, the game structure is built around a loop of exploration, gathering, and combat, so you'll venture out into daily forays into the Enclave, completing various quests, solving environmental puzzles, and battling ferocious monsters. And what's the goal of this? Well, to gather materials, upgrade your gear, and unlock new areas through a system of loom gates, which are essentially fast travel points you'll unlock as you progress. But its biggest draw in terms of mechanics comes in the form of the game's elemental magic system, which is truly groundbreaking. In this game, magic isn't just a means of attack. It's a tool of interacting with the environment in complex and exciting ways, and each element, whether it be fire, ice, or kinetic, has their own range of uses that can be extended beyond the combat. Fire can melt ice, burn obstacles, and even set entire villages ablaze. Ice magic can freeze surfaces, heavy up shields, and create devastating traps for your enemies. Meanwhile, kinetic magic allows you to toss and throw enemies, altering the battlefield with massive environmental impact, and the level of interaction with the environment is a breath of fresh air, and allows you to experiment in ways that feel unique to the genre. Imagine picking up a rock, charging it with kinetic energy, and then hurling at enemies, or using ice magic to freeze enemies' legs, causing them to slip and fall. It's this kind of freedom and creativity that keeps gameplay exciting. While there's no denying the thrill of slashing through enemies or battling colossal monsters, the combat mechanics themselves feel a bit imprecise. The lock-on system is often frustrating and inconsistent, and forces you to manually adjust the camera, and smaller enemies tend to evade your strikes far too easily. But moving to a positive, for me, where this game truly shines is in its boss fights, as these battles against massive creatures like dragons and ancient golems elevate the game to another level. The climbing mechanic allows you to scale these towering beasts, search for the weak points to exploit while dodging attacks. It's a thrill mix of action and strategy, with some nods to Shadow of the Colossus. It's clear that the developers put a lot of effort into making these encounters feel like monumental events, and they are undoubtedly one of the game's highlights. A feature in this game is its crafting and resource gathering mechanics. As you explore the game, you'll collect a variety of materials, everything from monster skin to ancient artifacts that can all be used to upgrade your weapons and gear. And the reforge system in particularly is interesting, as it allows you to adjust your armor stats to suit different environments and combat styles. However, this game suffers from a somewhat restrictive inventory system. Your backpack is limited, and it forces you to return to base frequently to offload items. While this is a mechanic borrowed from roguelites, it can often feel like a hindrance to more immersive exploration, and the game's quests often focus on gathering specific items or defeating particular monsters, and it can also become repetitive. And when it comes to its visuals, this is a vibrant and colorful game. Its world is filled with lush landscapes, neon-lit villages, and whimsical designs that make its visual appealing at first glance. However, there's a slight issue in the game's art direction, as it often feels like the environments are overly bright and generic, and every so often there are some texture pop-ins. For me, Eternal Strands is an interesting game. It offers an expansive world filled with freedom and creativity, especially through its physics-based magic system and massive boss battles. The exploration is freeform, allowing for some truly unique moments as you scale towers, break barriers, and solve puzzles in a way that very few games allow. However, this game does suffer from some significant flaws. The combat system feels imprecise and lacks the depth, while the narrative, though promising, never quite reaches the heights it should. For me, this game's a 7 out of 10. It's a game that offers fun and freedom, but it doesn't quite deliver the consistency and polish needed to elevate it to the next level. If you're a fan of open world games, you might have some fun with this. But for everyone else, this is a game I cannot recommend to you.
Gwynfall built itself as an MMORPG that will bring something unique to the table. This game promised an expansive, open world where players can immerse themselves in exploration, crafting, combat, and more. Early access, however, has revealed that the game is still very much a work in progress, which makes the experience hard to recommend to a broader audience at this time. The premise of Gwynfall revolves around a world that offers players the ability to shape their destiny. This game features a mix of classic MMORPG elements, crafting, combat quests, and incorporates features such as a life skill system, where you can engage in various activities such as fishing, logging, foraging, and much more. And while this play is quite appealing for fans of MMORPGs who may enjoy immersion and exploration in a sandbox-like setting, the potential is there, but the delivery is still in its infancy. And that for me is the most crucial takeaway here. As the first thing that stands out, technical issues. The early access launch has been nothing short of disastrous, and if you've played it already, you know, it's been a struggle to log into the game at all. And we've been getting messages such as server not available or timeout that prevent us from accessing it. And when you do get in, there's issue lag, high ping spikes, and disconnects that flag the experience, and this severely impacts the enjoyment of the game. And to add insult to injury, the waiting time can be so damn long. When we finally do get in, you're greeted by an empty server. But despite these technical issues, the gameplay itself has moments of promise. It carries a heavy focus on exploration, crafting, and life skills, which will appeal to players who enjoy engaging in the world rather than solely focusing on combat. And this game features a traditional combat system, though it feels like a basic version of what we've seen in other MMORPGs. The current skills and abilities available seem standard but are fun to experiment with. And while the combat can be entertaining when it works, its full potential is overshadowed by ongoing technical issues that prevent consistent performance. And one of the most notable features with this game is its life skill system, which allows you to gather resources like fish, log, and hack your way through the game's world. And these activities can be incredibly rewarding, and they offer an alternative to the more traditional combat-heavy progression found in other MMORPGs. And when it comes to the world building, this game offers a lot of potential. The world itself feels expansive, though at launch, the absence of a functioning quest and interactive NPCs leaves something to be desired, but ultimately the game mechanics feel like a solid foundation, although it's hard to appreciate them fully given the current state of the game. And the issues with the lag, connection, and bugs make the basic gameplay loop difficult to enjoy. On the surface, this game offers a large and open world with a variety of locations to explore. You'll find yourself gathering resources, crafting items, and improving your characters. However, this open world is not as populated as you might expect. The game world feels sparse, with limited NPC interactions and a noticeable lack of players on the server. And this leaves a lot of downtime where you'll find yourself wandering around without much to do. And when it comes to graphics, it's not groundbreaking, but they do their job. The environments look decent, and its art style is consistent enough throughout the world. That said, the graphics do feel dated in places, and there are occasional issues with textures loading and animations, which distracts from the overall experience. And its character customization, although functional, could benefit from more depth, especially given that this is an MMORPG where appearance can play a significant role in immersion. Currently, the customization feels a bit limited compared to other MMORPGs. For me, Queenfall is an MMORPG with a promising world and solid mechanics. However, the current technical issues, including server instability and constant bugs, are so severe that they prevent the game from being enjoyable, and even if you're a die-hard MMORPG fan, unfortunately, at its current state, I cannot recommend this game to you. And if I had to give it a score, I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's okay, but not worth the time.
After many years of waiting, we're finally getting a remaster of Tales of Grace F, and today I'll be letting you know if this is the ultimate way to experience this charming and heartfelt JRPG. The story of Tales of Grace F Remaster begins in a peaceful village, where you play as Asbel Land, a young boy who is the heir to a noble house. And at the start, the narrative feels lighthearted, focusing on Asbel's relationship with his younger brother Hubert, his best friend Chiria, and a mysterious girl named Sophie who has lost her memory. And the trio embarks on a journey to uncover Sophie's past and help her regain her memories. However, the stakes quickly escalate as the game catapults us 7 years into the future, and now a political conflict involving 3 powerful kingdoms puts the characters on a path filled with turmoil, betrayal, and self-discovery. And although the story may start simple, it's its emotional depth and character arcs that make it compelling and engaging, drawing you in as you see the characters evolve and face increasingly dire challenges. And for me, one of the most striking elements is the way it intertwines personal struggles with larger geopolitical conflicts. It's a balance that works beautifully, as you are invested in both the emotional growth of the character and the high-stakes drama surrounding them. And while the original featured an English dub that could be considered somewhat dated, this remastered version offers key enhancements, like the ability to switch between English and Japanese voiceovers. This is a huge plus, especially for any player who prefers a natural-sounding voice cast or anyone who wants to experience the game with the original Japanese voice acting. Another significant addition is the inclusion of full subtitles for all mid-combat and post-battle dialogues. And graphically, this game makes a major leap forward. The visual design of the game is a mix of charming anime-style characters designed in vibrant colors. The visual design of the game is a mix of charming anime-style character designs and vibrant, colorful environments. However, while the original game looked great for its time, this remaster brings a level of polish that was previously impossible on older hardware. The textures have been sharpened, lighting has been improved, and overall, resolution is crispier than ever before. But for me, what makes this remaster truly special is that it doesn't fall into the trap of overhauling the art style to the point where it loses the charm of the original. It's a clever remaster that respects the game's original aesthetic, all while providing a high-definition treatment that allows it to shine in today's gaming landscapes. And this game also hosts many quality of life improvements, such as quest and objective markers. The addition of these icon markers for quests, side quests, and time events helps you navigate the world with ease. Faster navigation. With the addition of a dash function, you can now traverse the world map at a faster pace. Encounter toggling, which is one of its most appreciated features, as it allows you to disable random encounters, so you can just focus on the story. It's skit controls. As many of you know, the Tales games are known for the skits, but now you can speed up or skip through these texts and skits. And speaking of skits, this remaster also includes additional skits that were only available in the Japanese version. And on top of these changes, there are also significant improvements in the game settings. There's a new audio option, colorblind support for puzzles, and the ability to access the Great Shop right from the start, allowing you to tweak difficulty settings and unlock various bonuses early in the game. And the combat is the game's core strength, featuring the series' signature real-time battle system. It combines fast-paced action with strategic depth, and the battle arena is dynamic and fluid, allowing characters to chain together normal attacks and special abilities. And of course, each character has their own distinct fighting style, and you can even switch between characters mid-battle to leverage their unique skills and abilities. And this title also encourages exploration and rewards you with an engaging leveling system. You can explore dungeons, find hidden treasures, and take on optional bosses, all to unlock powerful new abilities. It's the perfect blend of linear progression and side content that offers a satisfying sense of progression. For me, Tales of Grace F Remaster is an absolute joy to experience. And whether you're new to the Tales series or just revisiting an old favorite, this remaster is a great game that I can easily recommend to you, especially if you love JRPGs. It's a challenging game, but not always for the right reasons. The combat is methodical, leaning heavily on timing and positioning, and Rookie wields a massive fishing hook as his primary weapon, alongside ranged tools like flintlock pistols and a blunderbuss. And there is no stamina bar limiting your attacks, but ranged weapons use mana, which regenerates as you land hits or destroy objects. And the enemies, which range from skull-faced pirates to grotesque sea creatures, are all varied and well designed. There are over 80 enemy types and 60 bosses, promising plenty of challenges. However, the combat suffers from some frustration designs, as animation-heavy attacks often leave you vulnerable, and the inability to cancel out of basic moves into a dodge feels unnecessarily punishing. Adding hit detection issues and the overall experience can feel inconsistent at times. And like any good Metroidvania, Market the Deep rewards exploration. New abilities like a grappling hook that pulls you to walls or enemies,
and marks that unlock unique powers let you traverse previously inaccessible areas. The interconnected island layout is packed with shortcuts and secrets, but its visual repetition makes navigation a chore, and the lack of a map exacerbates this issue. While games like Dark Souls thrive without maps thanks to intuitive level design, this game struggles due to the samey environments, so if you step away from the game for a while, it's easy to lose track of where you've been or where you have to go. But on the plus side, progression systems like soul gem fragments for mana upgrades and trinkets that grant perks give you a sense of growth. Visually, this game has its moments. Certain biomes like the Crystal Caves and the Cursed Forest all stand out, however much of the island feels drab and grey, with limited variety on its aesthetics. While the art style fits the game's dark tone, it lacks the vibrancy one might expect from the party theme adventure, and its sound design is equally mixed. Ambient noise like rustling of trees and crashing waves add immersion, but the soundtrack is practically non-existent outside of the boss fights, and the result is an eerie atmosphere that feels more empty than intentional. Also, this game has some bugs that disrupt the flow of the gameplay and can make it feel unfair at times. For me, this game had a lot of potential. Its blend of genres, compelling lore, and challenging gameplay are admirable, but its execution doesn't quite hit the mark. For me, this game's a 6.5 out of 10, and although it had a solid foundation, it's marred by its uneven execution, and unfortunately, it's a game I cannot recommend to you, even if you love action-adventure games. Late Chimera transport us to a near future Osaka, where demons run rampant, and society has been reshaped by chaos, as 30 years ago humans began transforming into monsters of myth and legend, leading to a societal collapse. And rising from the ashes is the Holy Union, a pseudo-religious organization that promises safety at the cost of freedom. And you play as Shin, a cryogenically frozen demon hunter who has waken up decades later, only to find himself questioning everything. And if that wasn't enough, Shin discovers Lux, a demon who can transform into a sentient sword, setting the stage for a story of trust, power, and morality. Sounds familiar, right? And while the plot doesn't reinvent the wheel, it's packed with intrigue. Shin is a principal and relatable protagonist, and the game poses fascinating moral dilemmas. But the supporting cast, including Lux, falls a little flat, leaving the narrative feeling like it's just scratching the surface of its potential. And for me, where this game truly shines is in its exploration, as the game world is intricately designed, with branching pathways, secret areas, and puzzles filled with environments. It's satisfying to peel back the layers of this dystopian city, uncovering hidden jigsaw pieces that unlock powerful gear. And unlike traditional Metroidvanias, you're not just gated by traversal powers. Instead, here progression is tied to actual keys and optional abilities unlocked throughout leveling. It's a refreshing twist that feels organic rather than formulaic, and this game's combat is fluid and engaging. At first, Shin wields a mix of melee weapons and firearms, giving you plenty of tools to experiment with. Lux, the demon's sword companion, adds an extra layer of strategy. You can launch her as a projectiles, stick her into walls for substantial damage, or even rewind time to solve environmental puzzles. Here's the kicker: Lux is too good. Her healing abilities tribalize most battles, including boss fights, and while it might appeal to casual players, it robs the game from any real challenge for veterans of the genre. Sure, you'll need to learn many enemy patterns, but the stakes are never truly high. And then there's the side quests. Some are great, they expand on the world and reveal character backstories. But others, pure busy work, eliminating specific enemies over and over again. But thankfully you can ignore these grady objectives without missing too much. And visually, this game is a triumph. The developers have mastered the pixel art aesthetic and created an environment that feels alive with detail. And the music? The soundtrack blends orchestral beats with electronic undertones, perfectly complementing the cyberpunk vibes. And while it might not be as iconic as Symphony of the Night score, it holds its own. So, the question: is this game worth your time? This game's a 7.2 out of 10. It's a stylish and perfect adventure, and if you're a fan of the genre or don't mind a lighter difficulty curve, absolutely. It's a perfect game to jump into.
The heart of Asphalia of Fear lies in its narrative, as the story follows Charlie, a courageous young boy whose idyllic day at the park turns into an emotional journey when his puppies run off during a sudden storm. And his search for them leads him to the magical land of Asphalia, a colorful yet mysterious realm threatened by a looming shadow. And the quest to find his furry friends isn't just a simple rescue mission, it's a heartfelt exploration of fear, courage, and self-discovery. And along the way, he's joined by Lily, a furry little companion who's equal parts guide and comic relief. And together they meet a host of quirky characters, from hilariously dramatic Neferatu, a vampire butter knife, to the multi-headed Cerberus, with each head brimming with personality. And the story strikes a delicate balance between lighthearted fun and deeply emotional themes. While children will love the colorful world and whimsical dialogue, adults will appreciate the subtle lessons woven into Charlie's journey, being that fear is natural and true bravery comes from confronting it head-on. And this title stays true to its point-and-click roots, with mechanics that are approachable for all players, regardless of age. Movement, exploration, and interaction are all handled with a single click, making it intuitive for younger players and a nostalgic throwback for seasoned fans of the genre. For me, the puzzles are a standout feature. They're thoughtfully designed to be engaging without being overly complex. Younger players will find them manageable, and seasoned players will appreciate the creativity they require. And each puzzle ties seamlessly into the story, whether it's helping a character resolve a problem or unlocking new areas of Asphalia. And for those of you who love collectibles, this game includes a fun sticker system, where you can hunt for shiny, unique stickers scattered throughout the world, adding an extra layer of replayability, especially for completionists. One of the most delightful aspects of this game is its unforgettable cast of characters. Each NPC is brimmed with personality brought to life by their excellent voice acting. And visually, this game looks great, as the hand-drawn art style is vibrant and full of intricate details, and creates a world that feels alive and inviting. And its sound design, it's equally impressive. The whimsical soundtrack perfectly complements the story, with gentle melodies that shift to more dramatic tones during pivotal moments. However, this game does have some hiccups, as I encounter a couple of minor glitches, but apart from that, I'd really enjoyed my time with this game, and that's why for me, it's an 8.8 out of 10. As it's a game that anyone can enjoy, whether it be kids or adults, and a game I can easily recommend to all of you. When it comes to the world of Tales of Iron 2 Whiskers of Winter, the setting is large, more expansive, and more intricate than its predecessor. And this time around, you play as Arlo, a young heir to the Warden of the Wastes, and tasked with rallying the various animal clans to stop a dark new threat, an army of bat-like creatures known as the Darkwings. It's a familiar setup, but it's one that allows for heartwarming character moments as Arlo navigates the series of new lands, forging alliance along the way. And the biggest standout of this game is its world building, as the environments are breathtaking. We're talking about rich, detailed, hand-painted landscapes, where every new area feels like it has a personality of its own. Whether you're trekking through the snow-covered plains or battling enemies in dark, misty swamps, every biome is visually distinct and offers something new. And the game's art direction remains one of its strongest points. The hand-drawn visuals are even more refined in Whiskers of the Winter, with the environments benefiting from the depth layered backgrounds and targeted lighting effects that really bring each setting to life. And when it comes to the gameplay and combat mechanics, if you played the first game, you'll feel right at home with the fundamentals. The combat still revolves around a mix of parrying, dodging, and attacking, but there are a lot of improvements this time around, as one of the standard additions is the elemental powers. Arlo can now wield fire, ice, lightning, and poison, each with its own set of powerful abilities. These not only add extra depth to the combat, but they also introduce a strategic layer, as different enemies have different elemental strengths and weaknesses. For example, you'll need to use ice to freeze certain foes, or fire to burn through environmental hazards. It's a great system that rewards you for switching up your tactics based on your surroundings and enemy types. And a neat new feature is the tracking ability. Before engaging in boss fights or enemy hunts, Arlo can now track the creatures, adding their profiles to the bestiary. And this allows you to learn their weaknesses and helps you prep your gear accordingly. It's a simple yet brilliant touch that makes you feel like a true hunter, always staying one step ahead of your adversary. And swapping weapons and armor on the fly is essential, as each piece of gear has its own advantages and drawbacks. So you'll want to craft and upgrade gear to match your playstyle, whether it's the heavy armor for defense or lighter faster gear to make dodging a breeze. This is where the game's crafting system really comes into play, and after defeating enemies or completing quests, you'll gather materials to craft new weapons and armor to ensure that you're always ready for the next challenge. And on the narrative side, the game carries out the heart of the original game, though with added layers of grittiness. Arlo's journey of revenge and redemption is compelling, and the stakes feel real. Tales of Iron 2 Whiskers of Winter is a worthy sequel that improves upon the original in almost every way. The world is larger, the combat is deeper, and the story is even more engaging. And although there are some few repetitive moments, like constant gear swapping and some slow backtracking during side quests, these are minor flaws in an otherwise stellar game. For me, the game's a 7.5 out of 10, and it's a game I can easily recommend to you if you're an RPG fan. Xenowars is set on a distant future where Earth is on the brink of collapse, and as the commander of the exploration team, you are tasked with recruiting a diverse group of experts, scientists, soldiers, and mutants, who will join you on a journey to an alien homeworld. And your mission? To uncover lost alien technology, confront bizarre silicone-based lifeforms, and unravel the secrets behind Earth's impending doom. Its narrative is rich with moral choices, reaching paths, and multiple endings, ensure that no two playthroughs are alike. The game's setting is a highlight, as it features the vast alien planet teeming with strange creatures, ancient ruins, and warrior factions. From insectoid hives to silicone-based superorganism, its world is both fascinating and terrifying. And the game's story is peppered with humor, dark tones, and unexpected twists that make it a compelling backdrop for the gameplay. This game combines turn-based strategy, RPG elements, and base building all into a cohesive experience. You must explore this alien planet, uncover its resources, alien technology, and the hidden secrets. And the exploration is grid-based, with time progressing based on movement steps. And while this adds a layer of realism, it can feel tedious at times, especially when the obstacles like trees and terrain slow progress. And resources are used to build and upgrade your base, recruit units, and research new technologies, and managing these resources effectively is key to survival. And the base serves as your headquarters, where you must construct buildings, research upgrades, and train units.
and you're able to create new opportunities for expansion and defense by altering the environment with the terraforming mechanic. However, the base building aspect feels underdeveloped compared to other strategy games, with limited customization options that lack the meaningful impact of the gameplay. But combat for me is where this game truly shines, as battles are fought on hexagonal grids, with you commanding a variety of units including humans, mutants, and alien creatures, with each one having unique abilities, encouraging strategic thinking and careful planning. And this game introduces a monster gene editing system, which allows you to collect genes from defeated enemies and use them to enhance your own units. This system adds a layer of depth and customization, though I wish it was expanded on further with more options and unit progression. Xenowars includes a standalone tower defense mode, where you must defend your base from waves of enemies, and while this mode adds variety, it lacks depth and doesn't integrate well with the rest of the game. And when it comes to its visuals, this game features a distinctive art style that blends gritty sci-fi aesthetics with quirky, almost cartoonish character designs. The environments are vibrant in detail and bring the world to life, and the animations, particularly during combat, are smooth and dynamic. And its sound design is good, and it perfectly complements the game's atmosphere. But of course, there are some flaws in this game. Its time progression system based on movement steps can feel exploration feel a bit slow and frustrating, and the base building mechanics lack depth and don't have a significant impact on the gameplay. And this game does such a poor job of explaining its mechanics and leaves you to figure things out on your own. And unfortunately, this game does have a couple of bugs, but luckily they don't detract too much from the gameplay. For me, this game's a 7 out of 10. It's an ambitious game that successfully blends turn-based strategy with RPG elements and base building into a cohesive experience, and it offers hours of challenging and rewarding gameplay. So if you're an RPG fan, I'm sure you'll have fun with this one.
Welcome back, gamers, to another review. At the heart of Neptunia Riders vs. Dagus lies a simple, albeit strange premise. A vast number of creatures called Dagus have begun to take over the land, and these jelly-like creatures have somehow managed to mesmerize your friends, compelling them to collect as many Dagus as possible. And now it's up to you, the player, to save your friend and stop this adorable but dangerous invasion. The narrative is at best lighthearted, packed with the same cheeky humor the fans of the Neptunia series will immediately recognize. And its story revolves around our usual cast of characters, including Uzume and the 4 goddesses, who are all caught up in this bizarre virtual reality trap created by a Mendelian creature. And while the game plays out like a typical Neptunia affair, there are moments that tease a bit of mystery and a dark side, but it quickly returns to the absurd humor and chaos the fans expect. The overall story isn't groundbreaking, but it provides enough of the quirky charm and the playful antics to keep players entertained. And this game even briefly flirts with the idea that Uzume might be the one behind this mess as a prank, though it's quickly dismissed and the plot moves forward in classic Neptunia fashion, ridiculous, lighthearted fun. The core gameplay of this game combines motorcycle combat with a collection mechanic, creating a unique hybrid experience. Its gameplay loop involves racing around various stages on customizable motorcycles, all while collecting Dagus before your opponents do. The premise is simple: collect a set number of Dagus before the other team, with stages that generally last about 1 to 2 minutes. And while the primary goal of each stage is to collect a required number of Dagus, things are not always so straightforward, as this game introduces a variety of special abilities all tied to the Dagus themselves, which can significantly alter the course of the game. Some Dagus offer buffs, while others debuff your opponent, or grant temporary abilities like fight or seize manipulation, and this makes each stage feel unique, though the abilities are often limited to a single level, which could have used more reuse for greater depth. And the customization aspect plays a big role in shaping your experience, as you can upgrade your motorcycle with different parts affecting speed, durability, and special abilities. And while this adds a layer of customization, the game mechanics don't dive deeply into racing elements that one might expect. Instead of a fully fleshed out racing game, it often feels more like an arcade-style collecting game with motorcycles. And one of its biggest disappointments in terms of gameplay is the lack of significant variety in stage objectives, as most stages are built around collecting 100 Dagus, with few exceptions that include the occasional time limit or solo challenges. There's potential here for more diverse objectives, but sadly, most levels follow the same basic formula, and even some of the more creative mechanics such as the zombie Dagus or the special holy Dagus don't get reused beyond a single stage, and this could have added more complexity and variety to the game. One of the better things this game does is its visual presentation, as this game sticks to the colorful and vibrant art style that has been a hallmark of the series. The character models are expressive and the environments, though not vast open world landscapes, are diverse and stunning in their own right. And musically, this game delivers an upbeat and energetic soundtrack that matches the game's fast-paced chaotic tone. The tracks are packed with catchy beats, perfect for an action-packed motorcycle combat, But when it comes to its flaws, its biggest drawback is its length, as this game can be completed in about 3 to 4 hours, which, while not terrible for the price, is relatively short considering the full price tag. And for me, this game's a 7.2 out of 10, and it's a really hard game to recommend to all of you, as it can be fun, but not for too long. Though, if you're a fan of the series, then I'm sure you'll have fun, but if you're new to the series, unfortunately, I cannot recommend this game to you.
Today's review is on Project Tower. This game unfolds in a universe where the Higgs have invaded Earth, capturing human survivors and imprisoning them in tower structures known as Project Tower. And as one of the captives, you are thrust into the harrowing journey of ascending the tower, fighting numerous challenges and adversaries along the way. And the overarching goal is clear: fight your way to the top to reclaim your freedom. And at its core, this game is a third-person shooter that introduces a unique metamorphosis mechanic, and this feature allows you to transform and adapt, providing strategic depth to the combat scenarios. Whether it's shape-shifting to evade a horde of alien pursuers or morphing into a powerful combat form to confront formidable foes, this mechanic allows you to approach each situation with a dynamic strategy. And this title offers a diverse arsenal of weapons, each one of course having its own distinct attributes and functionalities. And this progression system allows you to refine your skills and adapt your playstyle as you ascend the tower. Ambitiously, this title presents a rich and immersive science fiction universe. The environments are meticulously designed with attention to detail, which enhances the game's atmospheric depth. And on the audio design, it complements the visuals effectively, with the soundtrack that adapts to the intensity of the gameplay. The sound effects are crisp and immersive and enhance the overall experience. And this game delivers a smooth and responsive experience. The controls are intuitive and the game's performance is stable. And although it's not a game for everyone, for me, this game's a 7.7 out of 10, and it's a good addition to the science fiction shooter genre, and a game I can easily recommend to you if you love shooters.
And in this title you step into the boots of Tama, a rogue turned bodyguard, whose world crumbles when Coco, the woman she loved, dies during a journey. And now, guided by the legends of an ancient sword, capable of rising the dead, Tama ventures into the crypt of the Necrodancer, hoping to wield its forbidden power and resurrect Coco. This game doesn't shy away from the emotional core, and this is a story about love, loss, and sacrifice. Tama's devotion to Coco is beautifully explored, with newly added cutscenes that deliver more emotional depth than ever before, and a surprising narrative twist is the inclusion of Coco's perspective later in the game, which fills gaps and adds new layers to the tragic tale. And this story's pacing is masterful, with lore unfolding through dialogue, memories unlocked by defeating bosses, and hidden details sparkle through the procedurally generated dungeons. Every piece of narrative immerses you further into the world and its theme of moral conflict, divine defiance, and the weight of forbidden power. And this game makes a bold shift from its pixel art origins to a nostalgic 3D art style inspired by the PS2 and GameCube era. And the environments are crafted with care, featuring distinct dungeon atmospheres all brought to life with the clever use of lighting and textures. Bosses and creatures boast impressive designs, adding personality to the world's dark, mysterious tone. And this game also retains its signature 2D art for cutscenes, which have been upgraded to HD quality. But for me, where this game truly shines is in its gameplay. Building upon the shortcomings of the original, the developers have completely overhauled the combat system, and it's now faster, smoother, and more strategic. Its core combat loop combines classic dungeon crawling with monster taming mechanics, and as you delve into the crypt, you'll defeat enemies and use it to chill your sword of the necromancer to resurrect them as allies. And these summon creatures aren't just cannon fodders. They can be leveled up, customized, and assigned tactics through a system reminiscent of Final Fantasy XII's gambit mechanics. Want a creature that acts like a tank, soaking up damage? Or want to prioritize attacking certain enemies? The choice is yours, and it adds a strategic layer to the battles. Its combat feels satisfying, with high controls and a dodge mechanic that automatically positions you behind your target. You can even equip multiple weapons and mix combos on the fly, creating a dynamic and engaging experience. However, repetition does creep in after extended playtime. And this game also introduces platforming sections, puzzles, and environmental challenges to break up the dungeon crawling. And while these additions are a welcome change, their execution is inconsistent. Physics can be clunky, with jumps sometimes hampered by invisible obstacles or odd collision detection. But still, these moments don't detract too much from the overall experience. And its audio design is another highlight, as the remastered soundtrack combines haunting melodies of epic battle themes and perfectly set the tone for Toma's journey. And thanks to its procedurally generated dungeons, this game offers significant replay value. Each run feels unique, with randomized loop, enemy placements, and room layouts that keep you on your toes. And the addition of a roguelite mode also challenges you to push your skills to the limit. Sword of the Necromancer Resurrection is more than just a remake, it's a heartfelt reimagining that builds upon the original in almost every way. For me, this game is an 8 out of 10, and a game I can easily recommend to both fans of the original and newcomers alike.
For me, Sea Fantasy is an innovative action RPG, which combines the serene activity of fishing with the thrilling elements of a JRPG. Set in a pixel art open world, the game follows two protagonists, Rod and Axel, who are on a quest to save the world by fishing over 100 unique marine creatures. And the core gameplay of Sea Fantasy revolves around fishing mechanics that require precise timing and control. And players must stop a marker at the right time to deal damage to each marine creature, called sea ass. This game features a variety of fishing rods and hooks that can be crafted from the sea ass materials, which then allow you to catch even tougher creatures. The exploration is a key component here, as you're able to navigate the world by boat or engage in various side quests. And for me, one of the standout features of this game is its charming pixel art style. as its retro graphics invoke a sense of nostalgia, which adds to the game's overall charm. And the vibrant and colorful world combined with the detailed character designs create an immersive experience that draws you deeper into the game's unique setting. And the plot of this game is filled with twists and turns, and each character is well developed, with each one having its own unique abilities and personalities. And the game's narrative is engaging and will keep you invested in the protagonist's quest. And the soundtrack of Sea Fantasy complements the game's atmosphere perfectly, as the music is a mix of relaxing tunes and more intense tracks that heighten the excitement during key moments. However, after several hours of playing it, it does become repetitive. And this game is not perfect, as there are some performance issues, including frame drops and high CPU usage. In my opinion, Sea Fantasy is a refreshing take on the RPG genre, combining the relaxing activity of fishing with the excitement of a JRPG. Its charming visuals, engaging story, and unique gameplay mechanics make it a standout title, and a game that for me is a 7.2 out of 10, and a game I could recommend to anyone who loves fishing and RPGs.
Welcome back, gamers, to another review. Today we're diving headfirst into one of the most anticipated VR releases of 2025, Arcane Age. And if you're a fan of VR action-adventure games, then you've already heard the buzz around this title. And of course, the big question is this a game worth your time and money? Well, let me answer that for you in this review. Arcane Age was a science fiction adventure game, and it boasts a campaign that spans over 15 hours, and is set across 25 handcrafted areas. And in this title, you step into the skill boots of a Nara warrior, a lizard-like alien tasked with fending off a robotic occupied force bent on mining a critical resource called Arcanite. From the get-go, this game promises breathtaking visuals, immersive gameplay, and a full integration into PSVR 2 features like adaptive triggers and haptic feedback. But as many of you seasoned gamers know, great graphics don't always quite equal a great experience. Regardless, let's start with the visuals, which has been the hot topic since the game's announcement. This game is undeniably vibrant, with lush alien landscapes, crystal clear waters, and intricately designed narrow temples. And the game offers two graphic modes, a performance mode with 90 frames per second with a resolution of approximately 2800 by 2000, and a quality mode of a 60 to 120 FPS with a sharper resolution of 3300 by 2400 pixels. Dynamic foveated resolution ensures smooth performance, and the HDR adds richness to the colors. And I personally recommend the performance mode. While the quality mode boosts high resolutions, the performance mode delivers a smoother and more immersive experience free from ghosting. However, it's not perfect, as alien sin and popping issues are present in both modes, and while they're not deal breakers for me, some of you may find this distracting. And for me, this game delivers a robust and satisfying experience. As a Nara warrior, you wield a mix of melee and ranged weapons powered by the precious Arcanite. There's a sword for close combat, a laser pistol for mid-range, and a heavy scattergun for larger threats. And each weapon is upgradable, adding depth to the combat and rewarding exploration. But where this game truly stands out is in its traversal. Using your extendable pickaxes, you can climb trees, mine resources, and even scale vertical surfaces. And the mechanics feel fluid and natural, making movement a joy rather than a chore. And whether you're leaping between platforms, swimming through alien waters, or even crouching behind cover, this game leverages the PSVR 2's tracking capabilities to its fullest. And what's really impressive for me is the freedom of playstyle, so whether you prefer gun-blazing stealth tactics or a hybrid approach, this game lets you play your way. And the combat in this game is physics-based, with a variety of enemies that require different strategies. Some enemies prefer close quarters, while others attack from a distance, or even use grenades to flush you out. The AI isn't groundbreaking here, but it's competent enough to keep your battles engaging. However, after many hours of playing it, it will feel repetitive. But the core gameplay loop is solid, and for fans of action-heavy VR games, you'll find plenty to enjoy here. Now, moving on to the story, or rather the lack of. While Arcane Age is set up as an intriguing premise, its narrative fails to deliver. The plot is paper thin, the character development is virtually non-existent, and for a game that immerses you so well into its world, it's disappointing that the story doesn't match the same level of care. And unfortunately, its sound design follows a similar pattern. While functional, it lacks the originality, and most of the dialogue and sound effects feel generic. And for its price of $39.99, is this a game I could recommend to you, and is it worth your money? Well, that depends. For me, this game's a 7.4 out of 10. So if you're looking for a game that offers satisfying combat, versatile gameplay, and an excellent use of the PSVR 2's features, this is a solid choice and a game I could recommend to you. But if you're someone who values a compelling story, or even innovative design, then you'll find this game to be underwhelming. For me, it's good, not great, and it's a game that's definitely not for everyone.
And the story shines thanks to the diverse cast, as you'll interact with crew members at an Outer Rim drilling station, with each one having their own unique backstories and abilities, and some even join you in the battlefield as hero units, adding emotional stakes to every engagement. It's rare for a strategy game to deliver such a character-driven narrative, and this game delivers with a surprising depth. Now, moving on to the gameplay, as for me this is where this game sets itself apart, because this isn't your typical tower defense game. I'm sure there are turrets, but here's the twist. It lets you dynamically adjust them to enemy swarms as they fill the screen, adding layers to strategy and keeping every battle feeling fresh and engaging. And resource management is another key pillar of this game, so you'll need to strike a delicate balance between extracting resources and defending your base. And resources aren't just for survival, as they fuel technological upgrades, giving you the tools to adapt to increasingly overwhelming foes. And its unit diversity is another standout feature. From nimble air units to heavily armored ground forces, this game challenges you to think on your feet, combining RTS micromanagement with classic tower defense planning. And let's not forget the challenging modes. Escort missions, mining car defenses, and survival scenarios keep the gameplay varied and rewarding. And visually, this game looks great. Its fully destructive terrain and vivid effects bring the alien world to life. Battles feel chaotic yet controlled, with waves of enemies filling the screen in a spectacle that's equal parts overwhelming and thrilling. And on the audio front, it's great. The turret fire, enemy screeches, and the thumping soundtrack all combine to keep you on your zone. There are few games that manage to fuse the RTS and tower defense mechanics as effective as this game, and adding in the compelling narrative and stunning visuals, you get something truly special. And I can easily recommend this game to you, especially if you're a fan of strategy games, as I had a lot of fun with it. For me, it's a 7.9 out of 10, and it's a good game. The game dresses you into the role of Adestria, a determined warrior tasked with a deeply personal mission to find her twin sister, Harmonia, aboard the abandoned spaceship Atromitos, and her quest for vengeance threatens the very fabric of the universe, and it's now up to you to stop her before it's too late. And for me, what makes the narrative truly stand out is this clever integration of Greek mythology into a sci-fi horror framework. Throughout the game, you'll encounter gods like Ares and Hephaestus, all reimagined and haunting in unexpected ways. This blend of ancient myth and futuristic decay creates a fascinating tension, where the grandeur of Olympus feels suffocatingly at odds with the cold, desolated halls of Atromitos. The storytelling here is subtle, yet compelling, with environmental details and cryptic dialogues that slowly reveal the tragic events leading to the ship's downfall. It's a dark, introspective tale that never overshadows the gameplay, but always keeps you invested. At its core, it's a quintessential Metroidvania, and it doesn't shy away from embracing the genre's hallmark: intricate level designs, ability-based progression, and secrets hidden throughout every corner. And the standout mechanic of this game is this Ether Lantern, which allows Adestia to transform into a ball of light and propel herself in any direction. And this ability is not just a traversal tool, it's the heart of the game's exploration, from reaching high ledges to discovering hidden pathways. Mastering this lantern becomes increasingly rewarding as you upgrade its functionality, and the game's progression system ties perfectly into the exploration. Early on, you'll notice many areas retain a tantalizing out of reach, tempting you to return later with new abilities. And this creates a satisfying loop of discovery and backtracking, a hallmark of any great Metroidvania. And the ability to label rooms on the map is a small but brilliant touch, and lets you keep track of places to revisit. But when it comes to its combat, it's simple yet effective. Adestia wields a blade of precision, and her arsenal of moves prioritize timing and strategy. There's no rolling or dashing here. Instead, this game leans heavily on parrying as your main defensive tool, meaning you'll need to study enemy patterns carefully, learning when to block and when to strike. And what elevates the combat is its level design. Many battles occur in crammed, hazard-filled spaces, forcing you to think on your feet and adapt to the surroundings. And this adds a layer of tension to even minor skirmishes, making each encounter feel significant. And visually, this game looks great. The game's dark, foreboding aesthetic leans heavily into the horror influences, with intricate sci-fi backdrops that feel alive with mythological undertones. And the sound design is as much a part of the storytelling as the visuals. The Atromitos creaks and groans with the weight of its own history, while the music shifts between haunting melodies and adrenaline-pumping battle themes. However, this game does have some flaws. Its limited color palette and dark environments, while atmospheric, can sometimes hinder visibility. And while combat is satisfying for the most part, there are some moments where it feels a bit too simplistic. But for a genre overflowing with incredible titles, Somber Echoes holds its own by craving its own unique identity. For me, this game's an 8.3 out of 10, and if you're a fan of Metroidvanias, then this is a game you'll easily enjoy, and a game I can easily recommend to you.
Aloft is a sandbox survival game that thrusts you into a vast world of floating islands, challenging you to heal its ecosystem, build expansive skyships, and explore an ever-changing aerial landscape. And the first thing that strikes you when starting the game is its aesthetic, as this game's world is vibrant and charming, with each floating island feeling like its own little ecosystem, full of secrets and potential. And from the lush forest to the arid wastelands, the biomes are well designed and distinct, though they do often share a similar look and feel that could have benefited from more variety. And as you progress through the game, you'll encounter animals like alpacas, sheep, and goats, each one contributing to the game's overall environmental theme. And the music with its atmospheric and relaxing tone further enhances the sense of calm as you build. It's clear that this game wants to invite you into a cozy world where the focus is on creativity and ecological stewardship rather than the harsh survival mechanics. And in this title, you take on the role of an explorer tasked with restoring the balance of the world plagued by corruption. And your main goal is to heal these floating islands by cleansing them of fungal infections and ensuring their ecosystems are diverse and sustainable. But what sets this game apart for me is how it combines the ecological narrative with survival and base building mechanics. One of its strongest points is the building system, as you start off on a small floating island that serves as the home base, but over time you can expand this island into a floating skyship. And the building system is expansive, offering more than 600 parts, and you can construct anything from small huts to large intricate structures, as this game's building mechanics are intuitive, especially with the addition of a sketchbook. And as you explore through the world, you can fill the sketchbook with blueprints from ruins and other structures you discover. And while a lot is billed as a survival game, it takes a unique approach, as unlike other titles in this genre, this game doesn't bog you down with complex survival systems. So there are no hunger bars to manage, no complicated health or stamina meters, and instead, this game focuses on exploration and crafting, with you being encouraged to spend most of your time discovering new islands, gathering resources, and advancing your technology. The sense of discovery is invigorating, with over 500 recipes to unlock, ranging from basic tools to advanced machinery, and you can experiment with different resources, all by using your game's sketchbook mechanics. And another unique aspect of this game is its focus on ecological restoration. So instead of the usual survival-driven gameplay loop, the game challenges you to cleanse the islands of fungal corruption, reintroduce native flora and fauna, and restore balance to the environment. The game uses an innovative system that tracks the sustainability of each island, so if you don't maintain an island's ecosystem health, it will eventually become inhabitable and prevent you from gathering resources or interacting with animals. And its co-op mode is a highlight, especially for those looking to team up with friends or family for some aerial exploration and creative base buildings. But I gotta mention, the game's slower pace might not be for everyone, especially as the focus is on building and restoration rather than an intense survival challenge. For me, Aloft is a beautifully crafted game that blends survival, exploration, and ecological restoration in the world above clouds. And I understand the game's expansive world and limited variety in gameplay mechanics could leave some players feeling disconnected after a while. Ultimately for me, this game's a 6.9 out of 10, and although it's a game I can't recommend to everyone, it's a game I can easily recommend to fans of the survival genre.
He is watching.
Welcome back, gamers, to another review. Slender Reborn is a modern retelling of the iconic survival horror game Slender the 8 Pages, and this indie horror title aims to rekindle the fear that made the original a cultural phenomenon in 2012. Now featuring cutting-edge graphics, dynamic AI, and an overhaul atmosphere, the game is positioned as a tribute and an evolution of the original concept. The game retains the simplicity that defined its predecessor, as you'll find yourself lost in an eerie, desolated forest tasked with collecting 8 cryptic pages, which are all scattered across a sprawling map. And each page collected intensifies the dread, making the ever closer approach of the Slenderman the faceless figure that's haunted our nightmares for years. And the objective remains simple: survive the hunt and make it to the sanctuary before Slenderman claims you. And while the game doesn't boast an intricate narrative, its strength lies in its atmosphere. The fragmented notes you uncover hint at a deeper mystery, encouraging exploration and speculation, just as the original did. This minimalistic storytelling remains effective, letting the environment and the tension tell the story. And the core gameplay loop of this game remains faithful to its predecessor: wander through a haunted environment, avoid Slenderman, and collect the scattered pages. However, Jeff Winter has introduced several quality of life improvements, and these gameplay enhancements include dynamic map usage, where you are now able to consult the map, which is a subtle yet impactful addition that remains immersive, all while adding a tactical edge. A flashlight mechanic, a crucial tool needed to navigate the dense shadowy forest. The game's AI, this AI ensures that no two playthroughs are alike, as Slenderman's behaviors adjust dynamically, keeping you on edge from start to finish. However, it's not without its flaws, as there are a couple of soft logs, particularly during scripted scenes, and an unpolished options menu lacking basic features. But one area where this game shines is in its visual atmosphere, as the visuals are a significant leap forward from its predecessor, leveraging modern technology to create a forest that feels alive. And although this game isn't perfect, for me it's a 6.8 out of 10, and it's a love letter to the horror classic that captured our imaginations over a decade ago. And it successfully updates the visuals and the auditory elements, crafting an atmosphere that is both nostalgic and refreshingly new. And although I can't recommend it to all of you, if you're a hardcore fan of the original, then this is a game I can easily recommend to you. Imagine a world where colors aren't just visual experiences, but integral elements of reality itself. This is the world of Discolored 2, the follow-up to the indie puzzle game that left players captivated by its unique mechanics and haunting atmosphere back in 2019. And this game picks up directly where its predecessor left off, expanding upon its distinct world where colors are both the key to the puzzles and a conduit to the storytelling. Developed by a small indie team, this game ambitiously builds upon the foundation laid by the original, but it now offers a longer runtime and more intricate puzzles and an expanded narrative scope. But its great ambitions come with great expectations. So let me start off with what's great: this game's visual and audio design, as the game embraces minimalism and striking effectiveness. Its stark environments, once devoid of color, gradually come to life as you solve puzzles and create a sense of progression that is both visually and emotionally satisfying. And its interplay between light, shadow, and color is masterfully handled, giving each environment a layered and painterly quality. And its sound design is equally impressive, as the ambient tracks and deliberate use of silence amplifies the game's contemplative tone. And when it's combined with the well-placed sound cues, its world feels alive yet eerily desolated, much like its predecessor. It's a testament to how the atmosphere can be crafted through restraint. Now, moving on to the gameplay. This game takes the point-and-click puzzles formula of the original and deepens it in almost every way. The puzzles are intricate and often require you to manipulate the environment or to combine seemingly unrelated elements to progress. And this time, the game introduces conceptual combinations, which is a new mechanic that often forces you to think outside of the box. And exploration is key here, as the game rewards you for carefully observing your surroundings, experimenting, and embracing the unique narrative logic in the world. It's not always intuitive, but when the solutions click, it's incredibly rewarding. That said, this game does take a bold risk by incorporating script action sequences where you can actually die. And while these moments add tension and variety, they feel at odds with the serene, contemplative tone established in the first game. And there's a safe mode option for any of you who prefer to avoid these segments, but this inclusion is a polarizing choice. And the story in Discolored 2 is one of the more enigmatic aspects. Picking up directly from the cliffhanger of the first game, it expands on the lore while maintaining an air of ambiguity. And much like the puzzles, the narrative doesn't spoon-feed you answers. Instead, it encourages interpretation, leaving you to piece the story together through environmental clues and cryptic events. And although rare, this game does have a couple of bugs, but luckily they don't detract from the experience. In my opinion, this game's a 7.1 out of 10, and although I can't recommend it to all of you, if you're a fan of the first game, then it's a no-brainer. You'll definitely enjoy this game. And if you're someone looking for an atmospheric puzzle experience, I can definitely recommend this game to you as well. Custar Yard 2011, a city where humanity and advanced AI, known as cyberlife, coexist, sometimes harmoniously, and sometimes, unfortunately, not. As many of you know, visual novels have long been a staple of storytelling games, often relying on rich narratives and captivating visuals to engage you. But as for you, Cyberpunk 2011 and Love Punch take a bold step forward, and they do this by incorporating real-time typing mechanics into the gameplay. Set in the fictional city of Custar Yard in an alternate 2011, as for you, City Punk 2011 and Love Punch puts you in the shoes of Mickey, who is a part-time architect with a side hustle as a hired mouthpiece. And you may be asking yourself, what the hell is a mouthpiece? Well, it's someone who pretends to be their client in online interactions, managing everything from sensitive conversations to downright awkward confrontations. And this premise alone sets the stage for a game that's equal parts social commentary and digital drama. And the world building in this game, well, it's stellar. In Custar Yard, cyberlife, advanced AI entities with unique personalities are integrated into almost every aspect of life, from vending machines that judge your drinking choices to AI architects designing skyscrapers. And the line between human and machine is thinner than ever, and this thematic ambiguity bleeds into the narrative. And as Mickey, you'll navigate a web of human emotions and AI quirks. The navigation explores topics like labor displacement, digital identity, and the ethical boundaries of AI. And while the story is captivating, it is unfortunately not without flaws, as some sections drag unnecessarily, and the localization leaves much to be desired, and jokes that likely hit home in the original language often feel awkward in translation. But where this game truly shines is in its gameplay, as it's not just a visual novel, it's actually a text-driven simulation, and the bulk of your experience revolves around the instant messaging simulator. But unlike traditional visual novels, you're not just clicking through dialogue options, you're actually typing, or, well, pressing keys. The game cleverly lets you type gibberish, but your on-screen responses are coherent. It's less about accuracy and more about immersion. And it's not just about what you type, time matters. Replies have windows, and missing one can alter outcomes. And for me, this adds a layer of real-time urgency. It makes you feel the weight of Mickey's dual lives. And this game has a great sense of humor. Little moments like sharing a gothic outfit photo with your boss add levity to the otherwise heavy themes. And visually, this game is a treat. Its pixel art style is nostalgic yet modern, and perfectly captures the cyberpunk vibe. It's not flashy, but it doesn't need to be, as each scene is rich with detail. But on the audio side, this is a mixed bag. The soundtrack is excellent and fits the setting perfectly, but unfortunately the lack of voice acting and the limited sound effects hold it back from being truly immersive. But although this game is not perfect, it's actually quite close, and for me, it's an 8.2 out of 10. Its ambition and heart more than make up for its flaws, and if you're a fan of visual novels or cyberpunk worlds, then this is a game I can easily recommend to you, as it is definitely worth your time. Zoko Monster isn't a game that's heavy on narrative, and honestly, it doesn't need to be. In this game, you play as a massive monster rampaging through an urban landscape, and the mission is simple. Use your strength and strategy to destroy as many buildings as possible by pushing cars into them, and each level serves as its own urban battlefield, filled with tight spaces, obstacles, and cleverly placed cars. and the minimal story works in the game's favor, keeping the focus squarely on its standout game mechanics. This game takes inspiration from the classic Sokoban puzzle genre, but it flips the formula on its head. So, instead of moving boxes to specific spots, here you're maneuvering cars into buildings for maximum destruction. It's a twist that adds both fun and complexity. And this game offers 30 handcrafted levels, with the first ones being straightforward and simple, but as you progress through the game, its difficulty ramps up, and later levels require meticulous planning and razor-sharp execution. And each move here feels like a chess piece in a larger game of urban destruction, but you'll need to think several steps ahead. And visually, this game is clean and charming. It's what you expect from an indie title. And on the audio side, it's not something that will stick with you for long. The music was understated, but it was effective. For me, Soko Monster is a fantastical addition to the puzzle genre, blending strategic depth with destruction-based gameplay in a world that feels fresh and exciting. For me, this game's a 7.3 out of 10. And although I can't recommend this to everyone, it's a game I can easily recommend to fans of Sokoban-style puzzles or anyone looking for a unique twist on strategy games.
The title Helldive plunges you into the chilling depths of the Antarctic Ocean, where you take on the role of Daniel, a maritime operative aboard a submarine on a routine mission. And Daniel finds himself stranded in the eerie, abandoned mining colony known as Colony 1265. And with the help of his AI companion Virgil, you must navigate interconnected facilities, uncover dark secrets, and survive terrifying horrors lurking in the depths. This game combines elements of Iron Lung style submarine navigations, but with a focus on psychological horror and exploration. And here you must gather resources, solve basic puzzles, and avoid monsters and other unknown alien lifeforms. And while initially the learning curve might be frustrating, once you grasp the flow, this game becomes more about narrative and atmosphere, and its resource management aspect is less critical than it initially appears, making it more of a horror walking simulator. This game excels in creating a tense and eerie atmosphere with well executed jump scares and psychological level design, and it runs smoothly even on lower ends PC. But of course, this game does have some flaws, as the first 20 minutes can be particularly frustrating, all because of its steep learning curve. Also, its punishing mechanics, as hitting walls and other obstacles can be overly punishing and can detract from the overall experience. When it comes to visuals, the game textures and lighting could be improved, and its monster designs aren't well polished. But one thing that's not bad, or at least not too bad, is its audio, as the music in this game is serviceable. For me, Helldive is a unique and intriguing game that offers a blend of horror and narrative-driven gameplay. And while at first it may be a bit frustrating, if you stick around for long, it reveals itself to be a rewarding experience with a strong atmosphere and psychological depth. For me, this game's a 6.9 out of 10, and it's an okay game I could recommend to anyone looking for a short horror game.
Welcome back, gamers, to another review. 3D Don't Die, Mr. Robot is about one thing: survival. And Mr. Robot's mission is deceptively simple: dodge enemies, collect fruits, and chain explosive reactions to clear the arena. Yet this simplicity masks an intense, skill-driven experience that demands quick reflexes, smart positioning, and a strategic mindset. But what's the twist? Mr. Robot is a pacifist. He can't attack enemies directly, and instead, the fruit he collects throughout the game detonates upon contact, creating explosive chain reactions that obliterate enemies within a blast radius. One mistake, however, a single touch from any enemy, and it's game over. And this game is set in a colorful neon dungeon, a techno-fueled arena where glowing visuals and posted music amplify every moment of tension and triumph. As this isn't just a game, it's an experience that feels alive, vibrant, and electric. And this game is a masterclass in blending simplicity with depth, and you'll use only the joystick to control Mr. Robot, dodging an ever-changing variety of enemies, all while collecting fruits to trigger explosions. But don't be fooled by the minimalistic control scheme, as this game is brutally unforgiving. And enemies come in various forms, each adding new layers of challenge. Linear moves travel straight across the screen, requiring quick reflexes to avoid. Cluster spreaders scattered across the arena and force you to find tiny safe zones. Homing enemies relentlessly pursue you, keeping the pressure high, and laser bots fire beams that create deadly barriers across the stage. And the key to success in this game lies in creating chain reactions. So when you collect a piece of fruit, any fruit caught in the explosion also blows up, creating a domino effect. And the longer the chain, the higher your skull multiplier. However, grabbing fruit too early might waste a potential chain. And on the other hand, waiting too long will leave you cornered by enemies. And this balance between risk and reward is the soul of the game. And this game is packed with infinite stake games, a robust set of modes that ensures that there's something for everyone. A remix mode, which is the heart of the game, featuring 50 meticulously designed levels. An arcade mode, a classic survival mode where the goal is simple: to stay alive as long as possible. A lime attack mode, a zany twist on the time attack, as this mode floods the arena with limes, and a chill out mode, which is for anyone looking for a more relaxed experience. And collecting coins in this game isn't just for bragging rights. You can unlock a wide range of cosmetic items to dress up Mr. Robot. And when it comes to visuals, 3D Don't Die Mr. Robot is a neon dream. The The 3D aesthetic is vibrant without being overwhelming, and the clean design ensures that anyone can keep track of the chaos unfolding on the screen. And its soundtrack deserves a special mention, as each level pulses with high energy techno beats that perfectly complement the gameplay. It's the kind of music that gets under your skin and keeps you motivated, even during your 50th attempt at a particularly tough stage. Unfortunately, this game does have some flaws. Mr. Robot can sometimes get stuck on edges, leading to frustrating deaths, and also its high difficulty curve might not be suited for everyone. In my opinion, 3D Don't Die Mr. Robot is a love letter to the golden age of arcade games, and although it's not perfect, for me it's an 8.8 out of 10, and it's a game I can easily recommend to all of you, especially if you're an arcade enthusiast. If you've played it, did you like it, would you recommend it? Let us know in the comments.